there is a polar vortex heading directly for the East Coast. Will this mean just frigid sub-zero temperatures, or is there something more sinister at work? Will we be seeing cities like New York and Washington invaded by ice warriors directly out of Doctor Who? I don't know. I have no idea. But there is one thing I can certainly say for sure, and that's the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Jeff McAleer once again as your host of the Daily Dope and the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com, and welcome aboard. Thanks for joining me once again. It is just horribly, horribly cold out there in the Chicago area, and of course that means it's pretty chilly down here in the Duct Tape Studios. But hopefully everyone is out there staying warm and not having to go out too much if they don't have to. Just zip to work, zip home, zip to school, zip home, and so on. Anyway, I did want to mention, strangely enough, yesterday, the live feed was way out of sync, and I have no idea why. Because the quick little tests I always do before every show was showing that the sound was synced up okay. Everything was fine. Yet then I finished up the show. I thought, oh, okay, everything's gone well. Everything's cool. And then I go and I check the finished rendered video up on YouTube, and the sound was out of sync by about 2 seconds. So if you are watching live and you notice something's out of sync, do me a favor, jump into chat. Just let me know. I did a quick 50, 60-second test on YouTube as kind of a private file. Everything looked okay. So I don't know. I don't know if it was a YouTube thing, if it was on my end. Don't know, but I had to download the video and resync the audio, and that was kind of a pain. I hate when that happens. It's the second time I've had to do that. So I really am hoping it's not a YouTube-related thing. So anyway, it is Wednesday. It is Wargame Wednesday. I like to look at Wargames on Wednesdays. And today is January 3rd, so we've just got 2018 off and running. And on today's show, I have pretty much a jam-packed program ahead. Yesterday was kind of short. I think that was the shortest show ever, about 50 minutes. Normally, I run about 90, and I think we're probably going to hit about that because I am not only going to take a look at Battles of the Warrior Queen from my good buddies over at GMT Games, which is a module for Caesar Conquest of Gaul. So this is an add-on for that game from GMT. I'm also going to unbox Pendragon. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I am excited to get a good look at this game. So I'm sure those of you who are watching live are probably tuning in to catch that, or you're watching this after the fact. So cool. Just so folks know what's coming up later on this week. Tomorrow, Thursdays, I try to do some RPG stuff, but I don't know. I actually have something I could show off, but it's been out for a bit. I don't know. Maybe I will. Depends on how much news we've got. Today's another kind of slow news day, so I've got plenty of time to kind of dive into the mailbag because I've got some questions I thought were pretty interesting that I wanted to answer. But anyway, tomorrow I will be unboxing Ancestry from the fine folks over at Calliope Games. Let's get that in the shot there. This looks pretty interesting, so I'm looking forward to that. And then on Friday is Family Fun Fridays. I will be reviewing another GMT title. This time out, it is Chad Jensen's Welcome to Centerville. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so without any further ado, let's jump into the news because there is some pretty cool news going on. That's right, because John Carter's coming. John Carter is coming. That's right, next week will mark the role-playing game Kickstarter launch of Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars Adventures on the Dying World of Barsoom. That is one super long name for a role-playing game from our friends over at Modiphius Entertainment. Almost as difficult to come off the tongue as Robert E. Howard's Conan, Adventures in an Age Undreamed of. Anyway, the Kickstarter is coming next week, and I have the dope. John Carter of Mars, Adventures on the Dying World of Barsoom is a planetary romance tabletop role-playing game. We've created it in under license and with the cooperation of the estate of Edgar Rice Burroughs, author of the original Barsoom novels, and with the guidance of Scott Tracy Griffin, one of the leading scholars of his works, to ensure utmost authenticity. Using a pulp action-inspired light variant of Modiphius's 2D20 system called Momentum, John Carter of Mars allows players to take the role of various adventurers and heroes as they travel, battle, and romance their way across a wondrous and dangerous world known to its natives as Barsoom. Play as John Carter, the Princess Deja Thoris, the fearsome Thark Tars Tarkus, or you can create your own new heroes from a wide variety of options. Included in the core book are an overview of Burroughs' Barsoom and its peoples, perfect to introduce new players to the wondrous world of John Carter of Mars. Detailed chapters on technology, creatures, and various cultures. A new skill-less, talent-focused variation of the 2D20 system, including a step-by-step character generation system designed to make heroes from a variety of backgrounds and concepts. Choose a wide variety of characters such as a dashing red Martian duelist, a brilliant firstborn scientist, a savage beastmaster, a courageous airship officer, a disciplined assassin, or even Earthborn characters, so players can follow in the bounding footsteps of John Carter himself. A detailed narrator section with information on how to run a game and genre and setting appropriate games and campaigns, including information about the great secrets of Barsoom. I guess they won't be secret for long if everybody's reading about them. It also includes 3 eras of play based on the adventures of John Carter himself. Play during the early days of Dotar Sojat, adventure during the time when Carter was a prince of Helium, and in the years after when he was believed dead. Or fight alongside Carter and his allies during their later Jadik of Jadiks era. An introductory adventure, The Mine Merchants of Mars, say that 10 times fast, to get players and narrators started on their adventures is also included. I do not believe that I am made of the stuff which constitutes heroes because in all of the hundreds of instances that my voluntary acts have placed me face to face with death, I cannot recall a single one or any alternative step to that I took occurred to me until many hours later. John Carter from Princess of Mars. This Kickstarter is going to launch next Tuesday, January 9th, and as soon as I have more info about pledge levels and stretch goals, I will certainly be sharing them with you. I do know that having spoken with Chris Birch over at Modiphius, he was really pumped. I believe he's got a really soft spot for the John Carter series of books. And if they the folks at Modiphius come anywhere close to what they did with Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed of. It is going to be a very, very impressive core book, because I've got to be honest, now I didn't do a best of 2017 or anything like that yet. I might, I don't know. Everybody does it. And to me, I feel kind of strange because I know it's not as if I played everything or saw everything new that came out last year. I gotta be honest though, I think Conan would be my numero uno RPG product. I think it'd be kind of close, and there would actually be a couple that maybe most people wouldn't even expect would have been on my radar. But definitely check out the review for Robert E. Howard's Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed of to just get an idea of what we might be able to expect from this John Carter of Mars Kickstarter. I'm pretty pumped, and I'm hoping to get some more info from Chris to share with you, a little maybe inside dope. I can tell you that the role-playing game is not the only item that's on the agenda from Modiphius, as there's going to be a board game and also a miniatures game, and you're seeing some of the miniatures right now on screen, so pretty cool. And I got to go old school for a second. I remember, and I'm sure maybe a viewer out there is going to remember this too. I think it was it SSI did that John Carter board game years back. We're talking, this is probably mid 80s, which was kind of neat. It was very unusual because it was almost like mini games in it. So yes, I've always liked John Carter. A little, maybe he hasn't aged as well as some like Robert E. Howard stories probably have, but still very, very cool nonetheless. Anyway, my next news piece is from a company that needs no introduction at all. It is Fantasy Flight Games, and they are getting ready to release the latest expansion to Elder Sign with Omen of the Pharaohs. So yes, it's time to get ready for more deadly dice rolling. Here's the dope from FFG. Despite the nagging doubts that plague you now, there's little chance that you could have possibly been better prepared for this dig. You had participated in many exciting and contentious scholarly debates centered around this area of Deshur and the relic known as the Eye of Light and Darkness. This was your area of expertise, and you knew that there was little evidence to support the hoarse ravings of the crazed old man who burst into your office following one such debate. He had rambled on about Nephrin Ka, chambers sealed in eternal darkness, and ancient faceted stones that whispered into one's minds. Who would have believed such things? Now, huddled in the dark, you hear voices speaking in long-dead languages behind walls that have been unopened for untold centuries, and you wish you had considered the wisdom the madman had offered. For the first time in your scholarly career, you truly dread what you may learn. An eternal tyrant struggles to return to life from beneath the scorching sands of Egypt in Omens of the Pharaoh, the newest expansion for Elder Sign, a cooperative dice game that takes a team of investigators into the dark corners of H.P. Lovecraft's terrifying mythos. Based on the Dark Pharaoh expansion for the Elder Sign Omens app, a team of investigators must travel to Cairo and join an expedition to stop the rise of the Dark Pharaoh Nephrin Ka. His dread ruler seeks to return from beyond the grave and continue his blood-soaked reign of terror. What otherworldly forces have preserved Nephrin Ka for all this time, and how can they be stopped? No matter how well prepared the investigators may be, the pressure will always be mounting. Dark Pharaoh's special adventures must be regularly completed in order to stop the Ancient One from waking. While staving off the Dark Pharaoh's encroaching presence, the investigators can also risk exploring the long-sealed hidden chambers in search of elder signs. Even with new and powerful relics in hand, will the onslaught of ancient evils be too much for the beleaguered investigators? Will they be able to gather the elder signs they need to stop the return of the menacing Nefrin Ka and seal him away once again? Probably not. Elder Sign Omen of the Pharaohs will require the core game to play, is for 1 to 8 players ages 12 and up, and will carry an MSRP of $24.95 when it arrives sometime in the first quarter. I'm a little surprised that we don't have a specific release date yet. I think it's soon. The reason why I say that is because Fantasy Flight Games has revealed another preview, and it's a pretty detailed preview. And usually that indicates that they're on the verge of releasing the game. So I'm thinking February-ish. I'm not positive. I will point out that I have played the app version of Elder Signs Omens, and I enjoy it. I think it's a cool game for solitaire play, when I'm playing it. But I actually have never played the physical dice game, strangely enough. But I do enjoy the app game. The app game's very, very cool. So keep your eyes open for Elder Sign Omens of the, what was it? What? Dark Pharaoh? Omens of the Pharaoh? Omens of the Pharaoh. There is a Savage Worlds role-playing game setting, which I stumbled across, and it did pique my interest. And it's just begun a crowdfunding run on Kickstarter. And it's Children of the Apocalypse from Happy Monster Press. And it seems to be a post-apocalyptic setting, thus the name, with a twist. And here's the dope. Children of the Apocalypse is a post-apocalyptic epic fantasy setting for Savage Worlds. In Children of the Apocalypse, bold adventurers explore the ruins of our world, seeking lost technologies to empower the creations of tinker mages. In the world of Children of the Apocalypse, the 9 gods exert a daily influence on societies, scheming for the advantage of their followers and the downfall of their enemies. The setting book includes a complete plot point campaign in which the players contend with the gods themselves to determine the future of all humanity. Children of the Apocalypse requires the Savage Worlds core book and the Fantasy Companion. Players take on the roles of newly minted adventurers in the city-state of Peterborough in the service of the Lord Protector. Some might follow the path of the Scion, learning the arts of mental power. Others might master musketry or fencing. Still others could study alchemy or wizardry. What makes this setting different? It's Earth. The default setting is an alternate version of New England, but you can easily adapt any local area as a site for adventuring. For the game master, map making becomes trivial, and for the players, you have the opportunity to repurpose artifacts from our time as magic devices using weird science. Kelly LeBrock popping in here? Nope, guess not. Toy Blaster? Now it has the bolt power. Use a smartphone for divination or a French horn for a sonic blast. As you're exploring the ruins of Boston, the undead city of Salem, or the ancient campus of UMass Lowell, you'll encounter classic fantasy creatures ranging from dragons to chimera, but also hostile warriors of new races like the hideous Tanane, scions of the demon god of monsters, and the Adharka? Each one distinct, sharing only one common feature, 3 horns on their forehead, and their savage cousins, the Ogren. Adventure isn't limited to ruins, however. Plots and politics abound within the new cities that rose after the apocalypse. The city-state of Peterborough is beset by the aggressively expansionist barony of Groton from without, and minions of the dark gods may also lurk within, plotting to acquire forbidden knowledge and perhaps even bring about a new apocalypse. The Children of the Apocalypse setting book contains descriptions of the 9 gods, their followers, and their motives. 8 new races created by the 9 gods. A complete description of post-apocalyptic Boston and the surrounding communities. Setting rules to represent a high magic, high theology world. a complete plot point campaign leading to a confrontation with the gods themselves, guidelines for converting your own hometown into a campaign setting. The Children of the Apocalypse Kickstarter is going to run through January 31st with an estimated delivery date of August 2018, and fulfillment will be done through Drive-Thru RPG. Project goal is a pretty reasonable $6,500, and you can score the PDF at the $19 pledge level. And there's currently an early bird pledge level where you can become an NPC in the finished game at the $25 pledge level. Of course, there are print copy levels as well that are included in the Kickstarter. This looks pretty interesting, and I did notice, I think there's this, I want to say it's an $8,000 stretch goal that they hit 8,000, then they're going to include Chicago, post-apocalyptic Chicago, which I thought was kind of cool. But it sounds really cool. It's got the approval of Savage Worlds. Although I was taking a peek, there was a short video for the Kickstarter, but it really, to me, it wasn't very impressive. And I am not familiar with Happy Monster Press whatsoever. I think this is probably the first project or first publication they're trying to bring to the masses. And I understand that the artwork isn't fantastic. In fact, there's an image that's going past with a young woman kind of with sorceress powers or something like that. And it does kind of smack me of that weird like 90s 3D rendering that's, you see once in a while and you're kind of like, But my understanding is really this Kickstarter is just to fund artwork for the game, that this supplement will come out regardless if it gets funded or not in some respect, but that the Kickstarter is really to get the artwork done for the game. And it does look kind of cool. It looks pretty cool. So, and $20 isn't, it's not a horrible price for a PDF. I don't have a page count, so I can't tell you for sure. But of course, you can go to happymonsterpress.com to learn more. As I had mentioned, today is kind of a slow news day. It's going to be slow news days for probably most of this month, if any indication of past years. But I do want to mention that my pal, Mark H. Walker, and the team at Flying Pigs are still in the giving mood following the holiday season. And it's Wednesday. It's Wargame Wednesday. So I think you're going to dig finding out that they have a nice 3-scenario pack, which is available absolutely free over at Wargame Vault. That's right, I said free. And here's what Mark has to say about the freebies. This is our way to thank you for your support. In the scenario pack, you'll find 3 new scenarios. At least that is what we're starting out with. I designed a pair of Knight of Man and 65 squad level battles in the jungles of Vietnam, and Shane designed one for Old School Tactical Volume 2. We might add more later, and you'll be notified. That's the beauty of Wargame Vault. So you can go over to Wargame Vault, and if you happen to own Knight of Man 65 or Old School Tactical Volume 2, you can score yourself some free scenarios. But wait a second. What's that you say, loyal viewer? You don't own Knight of Man 65 and or Old School Tactical? Well, now you're in luck, because all 3 are currently on sale at the Flying Pig Games website. That's right, they are on sale and they are 30% off. I'm always looking out for you guys. I'm telling you, gang, I'm always trying to find some good free stuff and ways for you to save money. So here's Mark again. It's a 30% off sale, and it's sure to put a smile on gamers' faces. Get ready for a new year of gaming. Flying Pig Games will be running a post-holiday sale for the next few days. Enjoy a 30% savings on following titles: Old School Tactical Volume 1, 65, and Wargame of the Year nominated Knight of Man. Now is a fantastic time to get in on the fun and see what makes Flying Pig Games impossibly fun. Wait a second, Mark, you used fun twice in the same sentence. What's going on? Although their tagline for the company is Impossibly Fun Games, or something along those lines. Impossibly Fun, I know, is part of it. Right now, you can score 65 and Knight of Man for $56 each. I will tell you right now, and wargamers out there already know that we have to pay a little bit of a premium for our games because it is a niche hobby. 65 and Knight of Man for $56 each is a steal. Do not hesitate to jump on that deal. If you'd like to see more about 65, if you're on YouTube or if you're over at thegaminggang.com, be sure to take a peek. Did a really detailed unboxing so you can see everything in its glory. Same for Knight of Man, as well as the review of Knight of Man. And I really, really enjoyed Knight of Man. Was amazingly awesome. Unfortunately, I farmed 65 out to have somebody who was going to do some reviews for me, and never did anything, never got the games back. Yeah, I learned my lesson. I've been doing this for almost, this is the 8th year I'm doing the Gaming Gang, and I still learn my lessons. Anyway, I am not overly familiar with Old School Tactical. This is Old School Tactical 1, Volume 1, I believe. But it usually retails for $90-ish, and you can snag that for $63. So that is pretty darn cool. Save yourself some money and definitely score some excellent conflict simulation gaming. All right, so that is pretty much it for the news for today. As I mentioned, kind of a quiet news day, just 4 items that really jumped out at me. But I did want to take a little bit of time before I start jumping into the unboxing and I guess we'll say a first look at Battles of the Warrior Queen, because it's not in a box. Did want to jump in the mailbag because I've been getting some emails from folks. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, just want to say howdy, you can simply email mailbag@thegaminggang.com. So first off, Karen in Albuquerque, New Mexico asks if I'm going to continue doing written reviews now that I'm doing a lot of reviews here on the Daily Dope. So that's our first question. And I have to admit, I don't know. And Karen had implied that she dug the written reviews, and I like written reviews. I know everybody out there thinks it's just video. We've got to do video reviews. Yeah, okay. Yes, I enjoy video reviews too, because you get to see everything right up close. But a lot of people don't realize that written reviews pull way more views than video reviews. Strangely enough, I don't know why. Maybe it's because fewer and fewer people are actually doing written reviews on games and everything is just video. Don't know. But I can tell you for a fact, I can do a video review and get 800 views of the video, but that written review is going to get about 5,000 hits, thereabouts. So yeah, the written reviews really do bring a lot of people to thegaminggang.com, and I enjoy doing the written reviews. It's just, I don't know, because I'm really digging doing the Daily Dope. There is quite a bit of work involved in it every day, and because it's Monday through Friday, knock on wood, a lot of the day is spent putting together the news, getting stuff set up, making sure audio's not messed up or something's not wrong, do the show. Then I have to go and basically wait for YouTube to finish rendering it so I can put a thumbnail on it, put the description in. Then I'm off to post the news pieces from that day on the website too. So companies kind of get a double dip. I talk about their news on the show, and then they get a news post on the gaming gang. So I don't know, because I do like to have a life, and I do need time to actually play games so I can review them. So that's kind of what goes on the weekends. So I don't know. I wish I could give you a solid answer, Karen. I can't. All right, so moving right along, Mark in Spokane, Washington. And I know some people pronounce it Spokane, but when I've been through Spokane, everybody calls it Spokane. So I don't know. I'm going with Spokane. Anyway, Mark asks why I don't include news or reviews from particular wargaming companies. That's a pretty good question, and I will try to quickly sum up my answer to it. There are, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are a few wargaming companies that I think just release crap. It's just same rinse and repeat age-old mechanics and that have been around since the 70s. Slap on a little bit of polish, very little chrome. And, you know, I'm not the kind of person that a game the components have to just blow me away. The game has to be good. That's what I care about. But there are some that they just release stuff, and you can obviously tell there's never been any play testing on it. It's sort of like, okay, well, here's the rules, there you go, there's components, and they're basically broken designs. So I don't cover them. Then there are some companies out there that do wargaming or conflict simulations who they refuse to send out review copies. So, sorry, maybe it sounds kind of petty, but if there's a company who just wants me to constantly be sharing their news, but they can't provide a single review copy over the years, sorry, I'm not going to cover their company. I'm not going to cover their releases. It doesn't matter. It's not free to do this. It's not free to travel to the various different conventions. And so, you know, I talked about that last week. You know, game reviewers aren't making money outside of Tom Vassell and the guys running, you know, Board Game Geek and probably the folks from Geek and Sundry and stuff like that. But the rest of us, the average Joes out there, Janes and Joes, we do this because we really enjoy it. And it does cost money to be able to do this. So if a company can't be bothered to at least send you along a review copy once in a while, and that goes for other companies too. It's not just wargaming companies. Pretty much my attitude towards any game company these days. And finally, a question from Jerry in Knoxville, Tennessee, which I thought was this is a really cool kind of question. And this is kind of stuff that I really want people to ask. I really want them to email me questions along these lines. Not like this exact question, but things along this line, because it's kind of like, oh, wow, hey, that's interesting. Anyway, Jerry in Knoxville, Tennessee asked if I could recommend a role-playing game. Yes, I know it's Wargame Wednesday, but man, there's a method to my madness here. So he had asked if there's a role-playing game that I could recommend that has a very heavy military flavor and solid combat modeling, but isn't just rehashing historical conflicts. All right. And I'm led to believe that Jerry is either in the service or has served. So I know it's kind of hackneyed when people say that, but for one, Jerry, thank you so much for your service to the country. It's certainly appreciated. But I kind of had that impression that he's either in the service or he's recently retired. I'm not going to rehash the whole email. So anyway, that is an interesting question, because you probably need to go a little old school as far as something that's going to be more kind of military, kind of realistic military, but not necessarily being just, okay, it's World War II, like, say, Behind Enemy Lines was. And I don't think, back in the day, I don't think that role-playing game really modeled combat all that well. Or at least the lethality of firearms and so forth. So I'm sure systems out there like GURPS, Savage Worlds, maybe Fates. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some books out there, modern. They usually just kind of call it modern, that you may take a peek at, but I would make a couple of recommendations that you could take a look. And I'm 99% positive that these are available in PDF at least, so you can get them without having to pay an arm and a leg. The first would be Twilight 2000, which was from GDW. And I had talked about Victory Point Games. They had their Kickstarter last week that started. It's still going on for the Eastern Front game, Thunder in the East, designed by Frank Chadwick. And I had said, well, Frank Chadwick didn't just... people think of Wargames when they think Frank Chadwick, but it wasn't just Wargames that Frank Chadwick was involved with. And one game that he was the lead designer, I'm nearly positive, was Twilight 2000. And that was supposed to be kind of a next war Europe sort of setting. So it was set in, I want to say the game came out late 80s, early 90s. And so there was a little bit of post-apocalyptic because the Soviets had invaded Germany and so on and so forth. And then the, nukes started to fly, but not to the extent where civilization was entirely wiped out. And the players were actually service members. They were Army, Marines, so on and so forth. And they were trying to get out of Europe and going through Poland and things like that. And very, very cool setting. So I would recommend take a peek at that. And then another that I would mention is the Morrow Project, which now we're going really old school. Although I think it was 2 years ago that they released a 4th edition. I have not had a look at the 4th edition book, so I can't tell you either way. I should really check it out one of these days, because we used to play Morrow Project. I did not run Morrow Project, but I have never seen a role-playing game that actually modeled ballistics and the lethality of being shot by a single bullet as I did in Morrow Project. And the whole setting for Morrow Project was that some billionaire, if I remember right, his last name is Morrow, has some visions of the future, or he somehow goes into the future, or somebody from the future comes and visits him. I don't recall exactly, but tells this billionaire about how that there is going to be a World War III and most of humanity is going to be wiped out. And he puts into place, he starts spending all of his money putting into place these teams that he's cryogenically freezing, who will awaken 50 years after this, after the nukes drop. And that they will actually come out and help rebuild civilization. And there's problems, and it turns out that your team, the players, most of these teams don't awaken until 250 years after this apocalypse. And it was very, very interesting. One thing it really did poorly was everything outside of combat. In fact, the original rules were a pretty small book, maybe 60 pages. And there were really no skills outside of, combat. And the folks over at who did Morrow Project, I can't remember the company's name, actually licensed the kind of basic role-playing system from Chaosium and asked Chaosium to put together a little, percentile skill thing, which you could purchase, and it was like maybe 10, 15 pages long. But I'm sure that has been addressed in this 4th edition of Morrow Project. But it's pretty interesting, and it had a pretty good core fan base. The core community behind the game was pretty interesting. And I do recall, I don't know if it's still around, but I do recall it wasn't that long ago I saw a website where it was just really in depth of what the US looked like. And you could actually go, and for an example, I live in the Chicago area, I could go and look, and it was just page after page of stuff that was going on, after the apocalypse, after the team has been thawed, I guess we'll say. And I mean, these folks were super in depth. They were talking about neighborhoods of Chicago and suburbs of Chicago. And I thought, wow, these guys must be from Chicago. And then I would look, and I'd look at other cities, other states, and they had put so much detail into this. It was really, really wild. I don't know if that website's still around or not. I hope so. That'd be pretty cool. So, Jerry, there is a couple of recommendations for me. Going a little old school with Twilight 2000, as well as the Morrow Project, 4th edition. And I believe both of those systems you can get on like Drive-Thru RPG. And if you do, of course, please click on one of our banners at the Gaming Gang before you go over. Just go through our banner. We get a little taste of that purchase. So anyway, so that is the mailbag. Very, very cool. All right, so the first thing I'm going to take a look at here is the module for Caesar Conquest of Gaul that just came out, and it is Battles of the Warrior Queen. And let me just shift on over and switch cameras. There we go. So I've got Pendragon, and then I've got Caesar Conquest of Gaul. So let's take a peek at Caesar Conquest of Gaul first. And I am actually going to do a giveaway for this because I do not happen to own Caesar Conquest of Gaul. I know, pretty amazing. Because I usually have a lot of different GMT stuff. I mean, people kind of see the shelves behind me, and it's like, I got way more games than this, folks. They're just in cabinets. And I thought it'd be pretty weird for me to sit in front of like open cabinets. That would look really super odd. And I figure I'll pop on my ye old reading specs before I dive in. Boy, these things got dirty sitting down here. Getting a little sip, wet the whistle a little bit. Okay, so we've got the Ziploc bag, which we're going to have the rules. Sure, we're going to have counters. Guessing we've got a paper map in here. So, Battles of the Warrior Queen, Queen Boudica, and the Rebellion Against Rome. I have heard and seen her name spelt and pronounced a variety of ways. I've heard Boudicca, Boudica. That Boudica is usually the one I've heard as far as, when I'm watching kind of like documentary stuff or if I'm listening to audiobooks. So I don't think anyone's really positive exactly how to spell or pronounce her name. But in the year 60 AD, there was an uprising against the Romans. So we'll just kind of drop some of that stuff out here. Let's take a quick peek. And it includes 3 battles. And I am going to butcher the pronunciations of these tremendously. So we have, jeez, Camulodunum, Mona Insulis. Hey, okay, maybe that one's close. And Beneventa. Okay, so the first one I completely butchered. The other 2 I'm probably fairly close. This is designed by Brandon Clark and Stephen R. Welch. So we get into the historical background. And it says, Battles of the Warrior Queen covers the major engagements during the rebellion of the Iceni tribe and its allies against the legions of Emperor Nero. Led by Queen Boudica, the rebellion would become the greatest Britain threat to Rome's dominance of Britain in the wake of the defeat of Caraticus? Oh yeah, Caraticus, yeah. A decade earlier. Okay, so we've got the historical background, components. Then we've got a little bit of errata for Caesar Conquest of Gaul from the living rules. That's one of the nice things about GMT games is they will a lot of their games they have online. They call them living rule books. So if they need to address an error in the print edition, they easily can. So we've got the playbook talking about competitive play, rule changes for the module, special rules for this module. So there are Britain chariots, chariots in command, chariot harassment and dispersal charge. And then we've got the battles. Going to show us our setup here. Looks like there are some optional Britain, looks like reinforcements, or I guess just option when they show up on the board. Some scenario rules. And a simple version. Then we've got the next battle here. Mona Insulis. Insulis. There we go. Then we got scenario rules, naval rules, Roman naval movement. And not tremendously image heavy here in the book. But they're, really, they're just laying out, some of the rule changes and including some new battles. And there's the simple version of the battle. Design note, this famous battle is usually dubbed the Battle of Watling Street, a reference to an old Saxon name for an ancient Britain trackway that became a Roman road. And that is the Battle of Beneventa, I should say. I am first to admit that I am not necessarily extremely well versed in a lot of ancient history. I listen to different audiobooks and things like that. And a lot of it does cover ancient history and stuff, but can't say that I just, everything just pops right out of my head. Like I could sit here and talk about the American Civil War for hours, but Roman, I know probably more about the fall of Rome than I do about the glory of Rome. So we've got a couple of player aids here. It's got a movement cost chart, missiles, terrain, shock, and then simple GBOH charts. It's got that. We've got new counters. Good look at these. Let's get a little closer here. Just trying to make sure that these are kind of staying in the shot here. And they are dual-sided, I'm sure. Why, of course they are. And these are smaller, more traditional counter sizes. As opposed to, we're starting to see a lot chunkier counters. But these are pretty traditional. All right, and then looks like we've got a dual-sided map. Yeah. Okay, so we've got. Hey, look, we're gonna actually be able to fit this in. So this is the Battle of Mona Insulis. Got a terrain key up here. And then we flip this on over. And this is the battle that I am not even going to try to butcher once again. So we've got that here. And then one big, yep. We're going to have one big map for Beneventa. So this other side, and it looks like there's a fortress right there as well. Cool. Cool. As I mentioned previously, I do not own Caesar Conquest of Gaul. So what I am going to do is I am going to do a giveaway for this module. And I am going to make it super easy for you to score Battles of the Warrior Queen for Caesar Conquest of Gaul. And all you're going to need to do, let me put it all back in the bag. Yeah, Debbie, I'm gonna do a giveaway, but I'm gonna make sure that I lost the counter sheet, so you don't mind, right? Okay, so as I slide all this stuff in, let's get this map in the middle of it. All right, so for my first giveaway of 2018, you're going to be able to score this copy of Battles of the Warrior Queen from GMT. I will send this out to you, and I'm going to run this contest for the next week. So I will announce the winner on next Wednesday's show, and then get this shipped out soon after that. All you need to do to win this is you need to be a subscriber to the Gaming Gang on YouTube and comment on this video. I'll tell you what, tell me what your favorite GMT war game or board game we'll just say GMT. Doesn't have to be a conflict simulation. So you could sit there and say, oh wow, we just got Welcome to Centerville, it's awesome. Or 1960, awesome. So all you got to do, be a subscriber, comment, and I will randomly choose one commenter, and you will win this very module. And I will get that sent out through the post office. I'll do, priority mail. And I'll put some cardboard around it and put it in one of those priority mail envelopes and get this out to you probably by the end of next week. So there you go. So you're going to have an opportunity to win this. Hopefully you've got Caesar Conquest of Gaul. Maybe it's, on your wish list or something like that. Yeah, please, at least either have the game or have an interest in getting the game. Don't be a goofball who, I'm going to get in this contest so I can win this thing that I'm never ever going to use. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. All right, so let's get on to Pendragon, which I'm pumped to see. This is the 8th volume of the Coin series. And let's get on back over to the other camera. Here we go. This just came out. This started shipping, I want to say, December 13th. And just arrived along with it. Interestingly enough, because it's Pendragon, the fall of Roman Britain, the Battles of the Warrior Queen is also an insurrection by Britain. Kind of interesting how it came out at the same time. Actually arrived in the same box. So it is designed by, Pendragon is designed by Mark Goyan-Riti. Mark, if I got it wrong, I certainly apologize. And taking back look at the back of the box, it says, at the time, all members of the assembly, along with the proud tyrant, are blinded, such as the protection they find for their country. It was, in fact, its destruction, that those wild Saxons of accursed name, hated by God and men, should be admitted into the island like wolves into folds in order to repel the northern nations. Nothing more hurtful, certainly nothing more bitter, happened to the island than this. So wrote the Briton monk Gildas in the 6th century AD about what befell the former Roman Diocese of Britain in the 5th century in his pamphlet De Excidio Britanniae on the ruin of Britain. One of very few written records of one of the most crucial periods in history, which saw the end of the Roman Empire in Britain and the sowing of seeds of the modern nations of England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and Brittany. A period most people know next to nothing about, including me. A little bit about this. I'm a little more up on like British history than I am Roman, really. Okay, so Pendragon, The Fall of Roman Britain is a board game about the fall of Roman Britain, obviously from the name. First large-scale raids of Irish, Pictish, and Saxon raiders on the island to the establishment of successor kingdoms, both Celtic and Germanic. Adapts GMT Games' lauded coin series game system about asymmetrical conflicts to depict late Roman warfare, including raiders, fortifications, and foederati? Don't know. And boasts an involving model of political, military, religious, and economic aspects to depict the mutations of 5th century Britain. No. Gosh, because it's so cold, it's so dry, too. Throat gets awfully dry. My mouth gets really dry down here. Okay, in Pendragon, 1 to 4 players each take the roles of one or more factions in Britain. The post-Roman army in Britain seeking to maintain imperial order. The land-holding aristocracy of the Briton tribes aiming at recovering their independence while preserving their lands and wealth. The Germanic groups looking for new opportunities across the North Sea. And the non-Romanized Celtic peoples from across the Irish Sea or from the cold north eyeing the disintegrating provinces with appetite. It says that time scale is approximately 25 years per epoch of 12 cards. Mentioned it's for 1 to 4 players. The coin games always have some pretty cool programmed AI cards, kind of like player cards that you can utilize. Ages 14 and up. GMT does indicate that it is medium complexity, about a 5 on the scale of 1 to 9, and a 9 for solitaire suitability. Okay, so let's crack this baby open. Let's take a look. See what we got. And as with most GMT games, this is a pretty hefty box. And I can tell you right now, I don't believe we're going to see any empty space in this box once we get it open. I like the artwork. The box artwork's pretty cool. Okay. Aha! What is this? Interesting. Usually I don't see cards placed in a little Ziploc bag. Okay, we'll find out in a minute. Okay, so we've got the rules of play. And what are we looking at? About 40 pages? It says there's 44 all together, but I'm taking a guess. Usually there's quite a lot of illustrations in the coin books. And it looked like there were some like charts or something like that down at the back, towards the back end of the book. So we've got the introduction, general course of play, the components, game board and map. I had mentioned yesterday that I sort of have the impression that this might be along the lines of a more introductory game to the coin series, kind of like Cuba Libre is. Just kind of the impression I have. I might be way off base. I don't know. Just talking about the different counters, population, refugees, seas, forces, players and factions, control, prosperity, and plunder. And I see we've got little red boxes too, and it says important. I'm saying, okay, keep this in mind, important. Resources, renown, prestige, and wealth. Victory markers and pawns. Sequence of play. Of course, we've got the setup, the start, event cards, epoch cards, I should say. Commands in general. Duke's commands. Civitates commands, Saxon commands, Scotty commands, got battles, units in battle. So there's cavalry, militia, comitates, Saxon warbands, Saxon raiders, Scotty warbands, Scotty raiders. About strongholds and assaulting strongholds. Siege, pre-battle, field battle, assault, battle consequences, as well as siege. Feats. Okay. What about the different feats? Now, if you're not overly familiar with the coin series, they are asymmetrical, so each faction does not have the same sort of options and choices as far as what they can do in a turn, which makes the game very interesting. And some folks have a little bit of a hard time wrapping their heads around the game, coin games to start with, because of the fact that one side will not play. You're not going to utilize the same sort of strategies for each side. As, many games sort of like, well, there might be some different rules to make the different factions or opposing forces a bit different, but for the most part, you're both playing by the same rules. Coin series, no, that's not the case. So we've got epoch rounds. Victory! Non-players in sequence of play. And that's effectively if you don't have a full 4-player complement to sit around the table. These sorts of games, I always recommend get everybody there. Try to play with a full group. As opposed to AIs are cool, don't get me wrong, and yes, GMT has done a really nice job with coin series, but still, it just doesn't replace an actual player sitting at the table making decisions. It's talking about really going into a lot of detail about non-players in each of the factions, their actions that they can perform. Then we've got 1-player roles and victory, key terms. There's the setup, different scenarios. So we've got barbarian conspiracy, petty tyrants, the harder they fall. And then looks like this is the full game right here. Just basically say, okay, there you go. That's a whole enchilada. All 6 epochs. Which I wonder if that's what this deck of cards may be. Find out in a sec. Now we're going to take a look at the playbook. And I always love when GMT puts together a playbook. And I can tell you right now, this is a nice, big, thick playbook showing it's 70 pages. 72. So we've got multiplayer example of play to start off with. And not only do these playbooks work so well in learning how to play the game, because let's be honest, most of us, we read the rules, we go, okay, I think I got it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got it. But when we can look at these really detailed examples of play, it shows how do all these different rules and mechanics mesh. And you go, oh, okay. And there's been times I've looked at game rules from GMT and thought, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I'm like, I know all I'm gonna have to do is wait till I start reading the playbook and I'll be like, oh, got it. Okay, light bulb went off. Okay, so here we go. What going on in this example of play? Quite a few pages. So there we go. Kind of showing different forces, the different cards that are in play. One of the interesting things too, I guess I'll mention it when we start looking at the card decks, is that the order of play for the factions will change as well, which is pretty cool. Unlike a lot of games, it's like, okay, well, player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. Things are always changing. And the neat thing too is that you will actually see ahead of time the next card that's out. So you know what the order is going to be for the players. And in the coin series, see, for an example, it's showing the 4 different factions up top. What's interesting in the coin series is you don't necessarily get a turn every turn. So we got the epoch round, non-player orientation, 1-player victory. That's talking about when you're playing with the AI. But I'm telling you, just look at it. You're going to be able to go through the, and yes, I know it's intimidating for some people who aren't necessarily used to a rule book clocking in at more than 10 pages. But GMT always goes that extra mile with their titles, like the coin series, to explain exactly how do you play, make sure everything's pretty clear. Cool. And then what do we got here? Victory descriptions. Oh, hey, that's kind of cool. Kind of talking about the various different how well you did, probably how successful compared to history. And then here we get to a point where I always love this stuff, because then you start digging into the history. So a history behind the game itself, the game setting. And it looks like it's the designer and Volko Wunke, which I'm pretty sure I got his name correct, who Volko does the coin series. I mean, from my knowledge, he pretty much coined the coin series. Talking about rating, settling Britain, control, population and prosperity, Imperium, the fall. So it's very cool, because not only are you getting the history behind the game itself, you get a lot of discussion, especially, I don't know if it's going to be separate or if it's included in here as we were paging through. Design decisions that the designer made. Why did they include this? Why did they not include this? Then we get event notes, which with many of the card-driven games from GMT, we always have a section that tells us, okay, so what historically does this card represent? Sweet. Fickle weather. The Irish shore recruits. Camelot. Saint Germanus, I should say. Migrants. Just goes through all the, talking about what each of these cards actually represents. And this really can add a lot to your gameplay if you just kind of read through this a little bit to get an idea. I know when we first started playing Twilight Struggle, which was kind of the first really truly card-driven game that I recall getting into, I really enjoyed looking through the playbook and reading about what each, I mean, granted, there was a lot of the historical stuff that I knew, but there was other things that I didn't know about. And I was like, wow, hey, that's cool. So when the card comes up in play, you're sort of like, oh yeah, okay. I get what that is. All right. So talking about the, oh, here we go. Here's the designer notes. And then we've got talking about design notes for the non-player, for the AI. And we got a bunch of sources. Oh, that's cool. Talking about how, like, pronunciations and stuff like that. Yep. Nice. Very, very cool. And then credits on the back. Yeah, it's very, very solid. Very, very solid. Okay, so then we're going to get into we got some player aids here. Talking about the epic round, as well as battles. Even though there's 4 players, only getting 2. Which I know some folks complain, oh, it's a 4-player game, there should be 4 player aids. Yeah, I agree. I sort of agree, but it's not that difficult to go and pop it onto your scanner, print out some copies. Non-player guideline summary. Random spaces table. Non-player battle tactics. Can Raider Assault remove Stronghold? Aha. All right, now we're going to start getting into the various different faction handouts. Now these, there should be 4. There should be 4 of these because each player should get this. And as we take a look, when I was talking about it's asymmetrical, so it means as we take a look, we're going to see that muster, march, trade, battle, rule, invite, reinforce, pillage. And it kind of talks about what each of these do. That doesn't mean that's what everybody can do. So the Saxons, for example, raid, return, march, battle, settle, surprise, ravage, shield wall. The Scots, Scotty, raid, return, march, battle, settle, surprise, ransom, entreat. Yep. Kind of cool. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 of these. As I mentioned, I knew there'd be 4. Because each player really... GMT knows each player needs to have one of these. So, interestingly enough, you would think they would just... So, okay, so here we go. There's one like that. And then they would have just, a sheet. One like that. Well, GMT actually puts everybody, all the factions on one 4-page sheet. So that's kind of cool too, because you get to see, okay, so you know what your opponents can do. All right, we've got non-player event instructions. Hey, okay, this is new. I don't recall seeing these in coin games. So it's going to talk about the different events. Arthur. Huh. Nice. I wonder, I'm kind of curious if this sheet is, if that faction were to play that event card. Curious. It might be, because it looks like there's different things that showing kind of a chart runs across. Or maybe there's limitations if they can play a card for that event. Or what they can do. And then we've got non-player sheet for each of the 4 factions. And we got a counter sheet. We won't see tons of counters in a coin game usually, because there's a lot of cubes and cylinders and things like that. So it looks like mainly a lot of this is just talking about a lot of these are marking who's in control of a certain territory. And it's population. I saw some refugees. Of course, it's a little tough for me to see it when I'm kind of holding it up to the camera. That's why sometimes you'll see me kind of glancing up at the view screen of the camera. All right, then we got the board. Ugh, not looking promising as far as squeezing this board in on this table, but... All right, then we've got various dice. Oh, that's kind of interesting. So we've got Roman numeral dice. So we've got 4 6-siders and 3 8-siders, all with Roman numerals. And we've got all the various different pawns. And I can tell you right now, we're looking at, look like we've got some, let's see if I can get a little closer on that. So these look like they're little fortresses. You got some that look like little, like slices of pie, kind of triangular, like that. Got the cubes. We've got these kind of white pawns. Wonder if they represent leaders or something like that. Then we'll have the cylinders. See, those are marked. Yep. And then we got. So there's a variety of different sizes and different styles of wooden tokens and pawns and so forth in here, cylinders and that. So that's why I was talking about we wouldn't see a whole lot of counters, because usually the coin series kind of has a little bit of a Euro-ish look because of these various different tokens that are used. All right, then we've got handy-dandy baggies. I don't know. I don't know why GMT put all these baggies in here, because there aren't that many counters. And then we've got the decks. So we've got a blue Pendragon deck. Got the dark Pendragon deck. And we've got this additional deck. So let's start looking at some of these cards. So we know there's an epoch deck. So, well, or at least we know there's epoch cards. So I'm taking a guess that these are, yep, these are going to be some, I don't know if these were additional cards that they included, because we're seeing early, got late. It's kind of explaining what each of these cards do. Let's get these other 2 decks open. Huh. Okay. Kind of throwing me off a little bit by the different color backing, but it's possible. Yep, that's what I was going to say, that these cards are probably, yeah, there we go. I was going to say they're probably like a different deck, or they were going to be like player cards. Yep, so these are pivotal events for each faction. Get up there. Get a better look. So each player, each faction player should probably, I'm taking a stab, should probably have this card already in their possession. As far as not coming out randomly, because as you can see, they're color-coded on the back. All right, so this was the black. And so we're not going to go through every single card, but we will kind of take a quick peek. And as I started, I was talking about earlier when we were going through the rules, when you look at the top of the card and it shows the different faction symbols, that's pretty much the turn order. But the thing is, if usually in the coin series, if let's say your player faction A, right? So faction A takes performs actions or plays an event during their turn, the next turn you won't. It's not always the case in the coin games, but for the vast majority of the coin games I've seen, that's how it'll work. All right, so I'm taking a peek through here. Feeding the Ravens. Winter campaign. Pay double to march to one region. Battle there if any marching units arrived. In the field battle, strike during trap and no enemy evade. And then down below, it's saying bravery. Until epic, your troops, when assaulting a stronghold, can absorb double losses. Free battle now. I'm taking a stab. You might be able, if when you're playing a card as an event, you might get to choose one of the two. Possible. Omens. Take this card. Discard it during a field battle or assault initiated by someone else to further have any units you choose. Yeah, okay. Lindsay. Pretty cool artwork. Excuse me. There's usually some pretty cool art. A lot of times with many of the games, it's a lot of photography and stuff, but of course, you're not going to find any photography from this era. Nice, very nice. Isle of Avalon. Brittany. Sweet, very sweet. Daring King down at the bottom. Mariners by Sea. Cool. I know this is a title that a lot of folks have been really looking forward to because the coin series do really well for GMT. They really do. So, and a whole lot of different sorts of games in the coin series. So, of course, there's Fire in the Lake, which is Vietnam. It's a counterinsurgency game. Come on, obviously, right? Then you've got Indian Abyss. But then you start getting into stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think would get tackled, like Cuba Libre, which is the, pretty much the whole Castro revolution in Cuba. And it's kind of interesting because one of the factions is the mob. So, but yeah, the coin series is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Just taking a look at some of the cards here. All right. So, we've got the epic cards. Of course, what did I just do? I just took the cards. Yeah, they're on the bottom. Okay. So, we've got the faction cards here. And the various action cards. We've got the epic cards. We've got the dice. And the baggies. And loads of tokens and cylinders and so forth. Let's squeeze those on in. Those out of the way. And then we have the mounted board, which unfortunately, and I have to say this quite often, space is really at a premium here. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to, well, I should say I don't know. I'm 90% positive I'm not going to be able to unfold this to show the whole thing off. So, let's see what we've got. See how this folds out. Yeah, it's a bit bigger than I had hoped. All right, so let's try to do this in sections. Let's see if I can show this off a little bit in sections. Okay. There we go. So we're going to take kind of quick look at the top here. Then each of the factions has, oh, those are settlements. Those little markers that kind of look like fortresses. They're settlements, I see. All right. So we've got the Saxons and the Scotti there. And there's a legend along the side here. The different provinces we can see are kind of broken up. I'll try to get a kind of move a little bit with this as well. Let's kind of give you a better look at how it kind of breaks up. And then now it's just the bottom portion here. Okay. So here we go. So showing here, and you'll see now here it says these are hill forts. Then we've got towns where the other factions, it was saying, well, they were settlements. So, and if we take a look, you can see how each of these provinces or areas of the board are kind of broken up. Nice. Very cool. And I always say, oh, then we got up here, it's kind of giving us a sequence of play, the epic rounds, Imperium track. Looks like victory point track around the sides as well. Nice. This is nicely done. I always have a big smile on my face whenever I see I've got a box from GMT Games, because I know... Hey, Harry Ryan, thank you. And hello, Andy. I don't know if it's a great unboxing of Pendragon. I like to kind of give people a good look at what we've got in store for us. So, as mentioned before, we've got the cards, we've got the dice, we've got all these tokens. I don't know. To me, that looks like more tokens than I'm used to seeing in a coin game. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like there's a lot. There's usually a good number, but that just seems like a lot. All right. We've got the map. And I'm sure... Well, I'll have to worry about trying to make sure everything fits in the way it should after I'm done. Got the counters. Got dual-sided counters. We've got the... I don't need the reading specs anymore for this. So we've got the non-player sheet. So it's got all 4 factions here if you utilize any of these as an AI. Got the non-player event instructions, which is something different. I thought that looked kind of cool. Showing that for the various different factions. Then we've got the 4 player aids that tells the players what each of their factions that they control can do. Very nice. Some non-player guidelines. I think it was not, that was dual-sided. Oh yeah, that's right, because we had the Can Raider Assault remove Stronghold. Then we've got the 2 epic round and wasn't it battle summary? Oh, battles. Kind of play raid there. We've got the awesome looking playbook, which to me is like a selling point for GMT games all the time, as well as the rules of play and That's what we get when we take everything from Pendragon, the fall of Roman Britain, outside the box. So very, very sweet. Pendragon is available right now. So I know on Wednesdays I've been doing a lot of GMT stuff, which is cool with me. I have absolutely no problem showing off GMT stuff, doing reviews of GMT stuff. But one thing I always point out whenever I'm doing an unboxing is that GMT does not have huge print runs of most of their games. So if you are interested in checking out Pendragon, then by all means, get over to your friendly local gaming store, go to gmtgames.com, or go to your favorite online retailer, whatever, to get a copy of it, because it will not last. It will not hang out long. And once they're gone, then you're looking at, usually it's a year or two at least before GMT does reprints on stuff. Even Twilight Struggle, which to my knowledge is still their biggest selling game, goes out of print. So, and then, it's not as if GMT sits there and goes, okay, well, it's all sold out. Guess we'll release another wave of Twilight Struggle. No, players, there was a time I think it was like 2 years went by, it was out of print. So anyway, as I mentioned, be sure to go, and if you're interested in Pendragon, jump online or run off to your favorite local game store to snag that. And keep in mind, if you're a fan of GMT games and you go to a friendly local game store, let them know you're a big fan of GMT games, because a lot of times they only order one copy, maybe two of games, so they disappear quick. And before I sign off, let me once again remind everybody that if you would like to get this copy of Battles of the Warrior Queen for Caesar Conquest of Gaul, this module, all you gotta do is simply subscribe to the Gaming Gang on YouTube and comment on this video and let me know what your favorite GMT game is, and I will select someone randomly. I'll do it before the show next Wednesday, before the next Wargame Wednesday on the Daily Dope, and I will reveal the winner and I will ship that out. Because as I mentioned before, I don't actually own Caesar Conquest of Gaul. Anyway, that is it for today. As I mentioned to start off, I knew we were going to go about the usual 90 minutes today, because lots of goodness to take a peek at, and there was a little bit of news too. So I do want to point out once again, when you are not checking out the Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Come on, you know the drill by now. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back tomorrow. I will have an unboxing of Ancestry from Calliope Games. So complete kind of turn from conflict simulation to a family game, but it does look pretty interesting. So until then, hopefully everybody out there is staying warm, because it is just insanely cold throughout most of the US and much of the world as well. So, but I will be back tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thank you so much for watching.